Before we go any further, if you care about the kind of history that isn't polished for textbooks, the kind written by families trying to survive air raids, invasions and occupation, subscribe to the Legacy of Survival channel now. This channel exists to preserve hard-earned knowledge that was paid for in fear, ingenuity and real consequences. What you're about to hear isn't trivia. These were measures civilians relied on when police protection vanished, militaries moved elsewhere, and survival became a household responsibility. During the Second World War, millions of civilians across Europe and Asia were forced to defend their homes with whatever they had on hand. No standardized doctrine, no manuals, just trial, error, and whispered advice passed from neighbour to neighbour. Some of these methods sound strange today, but they worked because they exploited psychology, environment and scarcity. What made them effective wasn't strength or weapons. It was understanding human behaviour under stress. Let's get into it. How broken glass and gravel turned ordinary pathways into silent alarms. Families in occupied regions often lined garden paths, stairwells and entry points with loose gravel mixed with crushed glass, scavenged from bombed buildings. The goal wasn't injury. It was sound. Boots, especially military boots, make distinct noises on unstable surfaces. At night, when blackout curtains sealed homes in darkness, this crunching sound gave occupants several seconds of warning. That time mattered. It allowed lights to be extinguished, documents hidden, and escape routes used. Applied today, this teaches a principle still used in rural security surface choice matters. Gravel walkways, dry leaves, or uneven stone near entrances provide passive detection without electronics. Why blackout discipline doubled as home defence? Blackout curtains weren't just about avoiding bombers. In cities like London and Hamburg, families learned that even a sliver of light marked an occupied, awake home worth targeting for theft or intimidation. Households layered blankets, rugs, and even painted cardboard over windows to ensure total darkness. The defensive value came from ambiguity. A completely dark house looked abandoned or empty. That uncertainty discouraged opportunistic intruders. The modern lesson is about light discipline. Exterior lighting should reveal approaches, not advertise occupancy patterns inside. Rearranged furniture actually created defensive choke points inside apartments. In those dense urban housing blocks, civilians would move heavy wardrobes, stoves and dining tables into hallways and narrow corridors. Now, this wasn't barricading in the cinematic sense, not at all. It was really about controlling movement. A narrow passage with obstacles forced anyone entering to slow down, turn sideways, or, make noise. Residents practiced navigating these paths in the dark, memorizing handholds and clearances. Today, this translates to what's called interior layout awareness. Clear lines of movement for occupants, cluttered paths for intruders and, familiarity with your space under low light are still foundational principles. Why did false doors and blocked entrances confuse raiding parties? Well, in parts of Eastern Europe, families would deliberately reinforce unused doors while leaving the real entry lightly concealed behind furniture or even hanging fabric. Raiding parties tended to go for the obvious access points. When those didn't give way quickly, they often moved on rather than risk delay. This exploited time pressure and uncertainty. The practical takeaway is deception over fortification. A door that looks weak but is reinforced can be more effective than one that looks impenetrable and invites effort. How improvised sound dampening kept families hidden during searches. During house-to-house searches, families stuffed blankets into stairwells, hung rugs over door frames, and placed folded clothing under floorboards where possible. These measures reduced footstep noise and muffled whispers or breathing. Silence meant survival. This wasn't paranoia, it was acoustics. Modern applications include understanding how sound travels in your own home and how soft materials can drastically reduce noise transmission during emergencies. Why misleading signs protected entire neighborhoods? In rural France and parts of the Netherlands, civilians posted hand-painted warning signs claiming quarantine, unexploded ordnance, or disease outbreaks. These were crude but effective. Occupying forces were often under orders to avoid unnecessary exposure. The signs bought time and reduced patrol frequency. The lesson here isn't about lying, it's about deterrence through perceived risk. Clear signalling can shape behavior without confrontation. How household mirrors were used as early warning tools. Small mirrors were mounted near windows, stair corners, or exterior walls to observe movement without exposing oneself. This allowed families to monitor streets or courtyards from concealed positions. The technique reduced risk while maintaining situational awareness. And, even today, reflective surfaces are still used in security planning to eliminate blind spots without technology. Why routines were deliberately broken to avoid predictability. Perhaps the strangest but, most effective tactic was inconsistency. Families varied meal times, light usage, sleep patterns, and even which rooms they occupied. Predictability made a home easy to study. Irregular behavior made it difficult to plan around. This remains one of the most overlooked principles in personal security. Patterns invite exploitation. Variation creates uncertainty. Every one of these hacks shared a common thread. They didn't rely on force, they relied on understanding how people assess risk, how sound and light give away information, and how small environmental changes can shift outcomes. These weren't desperate acts. They were deliberate adaptations by people who learned quickly or didn't survive long enough to learn again. If this kind of grounded, experience-driven history matters to you, subscribe to Legacy of Survival, share this video with someone who values real-world lessons from the past, and keep these stories alive. History only stays useful if we keep listening to it.